Good evening. Welcome to another live feed. Rashad Mitchell's YouTube channel. Let's get into the Bible study time. Like the Spirit Study Bible. Psalm 71, 72, 73, and so forth, and so on. And then I'm going to get into the book that I started reading yesterday. I'm thinking it was yesterday. I think it was the day before. Anyway, I started reading this book this week. Overall, Horns, Hogs, Nixon coming, Texas versus Arkansas, Dixie's Last Stand. This is a book that deals with the game that was played actually tomorrow, 55 years ago, December 6, 1969. This was a major watershed moment in college football history because you had an all-white team against another all-white team, and it had a lot of racial connotations to it. So we're gonna get into that, chapter 3 and 4. Start with the Word of God first. Psalm 71, verse 1 through 24, and it reads, "In you, O Lord, have taken refuge. Let me never be put to shame. Rescue me and deliver me in your righteousness. Turn your ear to me and save me. Be my rock of refuge to which I can always go. Give the command to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Deliver me, O my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of evil and cruel men. For you have been my hope, O sovereign Lord, my confidence since my youth. From birth I have relied on you. You brought me forth from my mother's womb. I will ever praise you. I have become like a portent to many, but you are my strong refuge. My mouth is filled with your praise, declaring your splendor all day long. Do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. For my enemies speak against me. Those who wait to kill me conspire together. They say God has forsaken him. Pursue him and seize him, for no one will rescue him. Be not far from me, O God. Come quickly, O my God, to help me. May my accusers perish in shame. May those who want to harm me be covered with scorn and disgrace. But as for me, I will always have hope. I will praise you more and more. My mouth will tell of your righteousness, of your salvation all day long, though I know it's not its measure. I will come and proclaim your mighty acts, O sovereign Lord. I will proclaim your righteousness, yours alone. Since my youth, O God, you have taught me. To this day, I declare your marvelous deeds, even when I am old and gray. Do not forsake me, O God. So I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come. Your righteousness reaches to the skies, O God. You have done great things. Who, O God, is like you? Though you have made me see troubles many and bitter, you will restore my life again. From the depths of the earth, you will again bring me up. You will increase my honor and comfort me once again. I will praise you with the harp for your faithfulness, O my God. I will sing praise to you with the lyre, O Holy One of Israel. My lips will shout for joy when I sing praise to you, I whom you have redeemed. My tongue will tell of your righteous acts all day long. And for those who want to harm me have been put to shame and confusion. All right, two people like the live feed right now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got 4 people tuning in right now. Hopefully be more tonight. So let's break down Psalm 71 verse 1 through 24. Well, I just read, I have taken refuge. That means that this psalm contains a prayer by an older person who faces troubles and needs God's help to rescue him from his enemies and afflictions. He has walked in God's way since childhood and experienced exceptional troubles in life. Yet he has maintained his faith and confidence in God. He is determined to live the rest of his life with the confidence that God will demonstrate his power and goodness in his life. When I am old, it means when strength is failing and the troubles of aging are more evident. We should recall God's guidance in days gone by. Look to him as our protector, our helper, and sustainer for the last days of life. Because at the hour of death, when physical strength fails, we should know that he will not forsake us, but will be near. And as he brings us by the holy angels into his heavenly presence, declare your power to the next generation. Our hope and purpose in life should be to abide in God and in the fullness of his Spirit, so that his power and goodness might be clearly manifested in our lives. Thus the next generation will be inspired to seek earnestly God's kingdom and his righteousness. Psalm 72, verse 1 through 19. Endow the king with your justice, O God, to broil your son with your righteousness. You will judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. The mountains will bring prosperity to the people, the hills the fruit of righteousness. He will defend the afflicted among the people and save the children of the needy. He will crush the oppressor. He will endure as long as the sun, as long as the moon, through all generations. He will be like rain falling on a mound field, like showers watering the earth. In his days, the righteous will flourish, prosperity will abound till the moon is no more. He will rule from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth. The desert tribes will bow before him, and his enemies will slick the dust. The kings of Tarshish and of distant shores will bring tribute to him. The kings of Sheba and Seba will present him gifts. All kings will bow down to him, and all nations will serve him. For he will deliver the needy who cry out, and the afflicted who have no one to help. He will take pity on the weak and the needy and save the needy from death. He will rescue them from oppression, violence for oppression and their blood in his sight. Long may he live. May gold from Sheba be given him. May people ever pray for him and bless him all day long. Let grain abound throughout the land, and on the tops of the hills may it sway. Let its fruit flourish like Lebanon. Let it thrive like the grass of the field. May his name endure forever. May it continue as long as the sun. All this will be blessed through him, and they will call him blessed. Praise be to the Lord God, the God of Israel, who alone does marvelous deeds. Praise be to his glorious name forever. May the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen and amen. This concludes the prayers of David, son of Jesse. Let's break down Psalms 72, verse 1 through 19. And it reads, to the king. That means, according to the title, this psalm is Solomon's prayer as Israel's king, that his reign will be characterized by justice, righteousness, peace, the destruction of evil, and deliverance from the oppressed and needy. It also points to the reign of Jesus Christ over the world. Since several of its verses apply fully onto him, this prayer is similar to the New Testament prayer. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This type of prayer should arise from the hearts of all who desire to see Christ reign as king and his righteousness established on the earth. Psalm 73, verse 1 through 28. Let's get into it. Surely God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I nearly lost my foothold. For I envied the arrogant. When I saw the prosperity of the wicked, they have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy, strong, and strong. They are free from the burdens common to men. They are plagued by human ills. Therefore, pride is their necklace. They clothe themselves with violence. Themselves with violence. From their callous hearts comes iniquity. The evil conceits of their minds knows no limits. They scoff and speak with malice. In their arrogance they threaten oppression. Their mouths lay claim to heaven, and their tongues take possession of the earth. Therefore their people turn to them and drink up waters in abundance. They say, how can God know? Does the Most High have knowledge? This is what the wicked are like. Always carefree, they increase in wealth. Surely in vain have I kept my heart pure. In vain have I washed my hands in innocence. All day long I have been plagued. I have been punished every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, I will have betrayed your children. When I tried to understand all this, it was oppressive to me. So I entered the sanctuary of God, then I understood their final destination. Surely you placed them on slippery ground. You cast them down to ruin. How suddenly are they destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. As a dream when one awakes, so will you arise. O Lord, you will despise them as fantasies. When my heart was grieved, my spirit embittered, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel. After you will take me into glory, whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Those who are far from you will perish. You destroy all who are faithful to you. But as for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. I will tell of all your deeds. All right, let's break down Psalm 73, verse 1 through 28. God is good to Israel. That means that this psalm deals with a disturbing problem. Though God is sovereign and just, the wicked often prosper, while those who serve God seem to suffer more. The psalmist who serves God faithfully has become discouraged when he compares his afflictions with the apparent ease and happiness of many of the wicked. But however, his confidence in God and his ways was restored when God reveals the tragic end of the wicked and the true blessing of the righteous. I understood their final destiny. That means that God shows the psalmist the destiny of the wicked. Number one, this revelation puts his problem in the perspective both of eternity and of the believer's highest blessing. In the end, all the righteous will succeed and triumph with God, while the wicked will perish. Two, given the brief span of our lives, if we evaluate things simply from our limited earthbound human perspective, we will almost certainly become discouraged and filled with despair. We must have God's revealed word and his Holy Spirit in order to complete our life's journey in faith and confidence in God's goodness and justice. Yet I am always with you. That means that it's from Psalm 73, verse 23 to 28. It means that the psalmist discovers the attitude that leads to the triumph of faith. In this life, with all of its problems, our greatest good is intimate communion with God. Let the wicked prosper, our hope, treasure, in life is in God himself, always with us, guiding us by his word and spirit, upholding us by his power, and afterward receiving us into the glories of heaven. Like the Apostle Paul, our motto as we face life's anxiety should be, for me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. All right, so we read two more chapters and that'll be it. 74, 75, that'll be it. Then go right into the new book I've been reading this week. Like Psalm 74, verse 1 through 23. Why have you rejected us forever, O God? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? Remember the peoples you purchased of old, the tribe of your inheritance, whom you redeemed, Mount Zion, where you dwell. Turn your steps toward these everlasting ruins. All these destructions the enemy has brought on the sanctuary. Your foes roared in the place where you met with us. They set up with their standards as signs. They behave like men wielding axes to cut through a thicket of the trees. They smash all the carved paneling with their axes and hatchets. They burn your sanctuary to the ground. They defiled the dwelling place of your name. They said in their hearts, we will crush them completely. They burned every place where God was worshipped in the land. We are given no miraculous signs. No prophets are left. And none of us knows how long this will be. How long will the enemy mock you, O God? Will the foe revile your name forever? Why do you hold back your right hand, take it from the foes of your garment and destroy them? But you, O God, are my king from of old. You bring salvation upon the earth. But if it was you who split open the sea by your power, you broke the heads of the monster in the waters. If it was you who crushed the heads of the Leviathan and gave him as food to the creatures of the desert. It was you who opened up springs and streams. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. The day is yours, and yours also the night. You established the sun and moon. It was you who set up all the boundaries of the earth. You made both summer and winter. Remember how the enemy has mocked you, O Lord, how foolish people have reviled your name. Do not hand over the life of your dove to wild beasts. Do not forget the lives of your afflicted people forever. Have regard for your covenant, because haunts of violence fill the dark places of the land. Do not let the oppressed retreat in his disgrace. May the poor and needy praise your name. Rise up, O God. Rise up, O God, and defend your cause. Because remember how fools mock you all day long? Do not ignore the clamor of your adversaries, the uproar of your enemies, which rises continually. Psalm 75. We give thanks to you, O God. We give thanks for your name is near. Men tell of your wonderful deeds. You say, I choose the appointed time. It is I who judge uprightly. When the earth, all its people quake, it is I who hold its pillars firm. To the arrogant I say, boast no more. To the wicked, do not lift up your horns. Do not lift up your horns against heaven. Do not speak with outstretched neck. No one from the east or the west or from the desert can exalt a man, but it is God who judges. He brings one down, he exalts another. In the hand of the Lord is a cup full of foaming wine mixed with spices. He pours it out, and all the wicked of the earth drink it down to its very dregs. As for me, I will declare this forever. I will sing praise to the God of Jacob. I will cut off the horns of all the wicked, but the horns of the righteous will be lifted up. All right, Psalm 75, verse 8. Now, in the hand of the Lord is a cup. That means that the picture of God is giving the wicked an intoxicating drink. It's used in Scripture as a symbol of his wrath and punishment. David states that you have given us wine that makes us stagger. Okay, so I'm done with that. I'll be in chapter 76, 77, 78. About tomorrow, 7:45 p.m. All right, so that's it. 76, 77, 78. All right, so let's get into this book that I started this week. Be in it for a while, maybe next 10 minutes. It's going to read 2 chapters, chapter 3 and 4. Tomorrow's the 55th anniversary of Texas versus Arkansas, December 6, 1969. That's what number 1 versus number 2 matchup. Nixon came to the game. Texas won the game 15-14 was the final score. Alright, so let's get into that. Chapter 3. Coach Roy. The national championship brought you only so much time at the University of Texas. And by the spring of 1968, Darryl Roy was 5 years removed from coaching the Longhorns to an undefeated season at the number 1 ranking. That 1963 defense led by sophomore linebacker Tommy Nobis and senior defensive lineman Scott Appleton was dominating. The Longhorns lost their best offensive threat, halfback Ernie Coy. So a separated shoulder at midseason. Shoulder separation. Still went undefeated and beat Roger Staubach at the Navy Midshipman in the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, Texas won that game 15-14. The game of the century. As I keep going, the national championship came in Roy's 7th season in Austin when he was only 39. Yet that raised the standards even higher. More than ever, winning at Texas didn't mean winning seasons. It meant dominating the Southwest Conference and lording over every one of the 6 other Texas-based schools in the league. It meant providing the punchlines of all for Texas Aggie jokes at AG 27-0. It meant going to the Cotton Bowl every January 1st and landing virtually every high school prospect the Longhorns saw in the state, whether the prospect was going to play ultimately just be kept away from Texas Tech, Southern Methodist, or even Rice. It meant beating the Big 8 Conference Oklahoma Sooners every year in the heated Red River rivalry in Dallas, enabling the UT boosters, University of Texas boosters, to continue forgiving Royal for being an Okie. The Longhorns coach had been forced to grow up fast in Hollis, Oklahoma. His mother, Katie, died in October 1924 when Darryl, her 6th child, was only 3 months old. When he was 16, his father moved the family to California. Darrell hated the West Coast and got permission from his dad, Burley Ray, to return to Oklahoma on his own. And after his high school graduation in Hollis, Darrell had an offer to play football at Oklahoma, but he went into the Army Air Corps in 1943 and eventually was trained as a tail gunner on a B-24 bomber. His crew was held back from being sent overseas to be trained for photo reconnaissance, 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 reconnaissance missions, and he still was the United States when the war ended. He was still in the United States when the war ended. So in the fall of 1945, he played for the 3rd Air Force football team based in Tampa and was heavily recruited by the coaches in college. He was a prized prospect, although he weighed only 158 pounds. He went to OU to play for Jim Tatum. As a senior All-American quarterback in 1949, Royal was 25 years old and playing under Tatum's young successor, Bud Wilkinson. To the press, Wilkinson touted his quarterback as a heady coaching candidate, and writers willingly ran with the suggestion, as when Walter Studer of the Memphis Commercial Appeal wrote after the 1950 Sugar Bowl that Royal owns one of the most brilliant masters of football cerebellum we've seen caged in one skull. That night he gave us a clinical critique, which was magnificently lucid and economically complete. He'll make someone a game-winning coach. Roy's first college job was an assistant at North Carolina State in 1950. In 1973's The Darrell Royal Story, author Jimmy Banks wrote that even before Royal was on the sideline for his first game, he considered quitting the business because he discovered he was petrified of public speaking, which was part of the job for even assistant coaches. As dynamic as he could be in informal situations or with small groups, standing on a podium was torture for him at first, but he managed to keep his poise and get through a lecture about his experience as a split T quarterback and about the offense itself. At the coaching clinic on the University of Tennessee campus that July, the big-name coaches in attendance familiar with him as a quarterback found they agreed with the Memphis columnist's assessment. Royal was stamped as a hot coaching prospect before he had coached in the game, and his knowledge of the hot offense of the period was the split T was coveted. So after that season, Tulsa coach Buddy Brothers offered Royal a raise and a promotion to the #1 assistant job. Royal verbally accepted it. Before he signed a contract, though, Bud Wilkinson called him a job, offered him a job on the OU staff. Roy wanted to take it, but when Brothers made it clear that he believed Roy would be going back on his word, the young coach swallowed hard and went to Tulsa. As it turned out, Royal loved the experience because Brothers allowed him, a college quarterback only 2 seasons earlier, complete freedom to run the offense. And the Hurricanes lost only once. Royal's bona fides as a precocious coach was solidified. Mississippi State coach Murray Warmath hired him anyway. So then Royal took the unusual step of accepting a head coaching job with the Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football Leagues. Forerunner, the Western Interprovincial Football United for a garish 13,500 north of the border. Football was a game of limited resources. 12 players legal, forward motion at the snap, 55-yard line, a rogue single point when the opposition couldn't get the ball out of the end zone. It was also Royal's chance to get his legs as a head coach, and the Eskimos were 17-5. Royal cited the experience when he talked with Mississippi State about returning, this time as the head coach. He went 12-8 in 2 seasons in Starkville, then 5-5 in a Salmon out of water season at the University of Washington in 1956. The Texas job opened it up, Royal left Washington with 3 years remaining on his contract, becoming the Longhorns head coach in 1957, a year ahead of Frank Broyles' move to Arkansas. Royal was 17 and 13 as a college head coach when he went to Texas, but he was only 8 seasons removed from being an All-American quarterback and had only solidified his image as an offensive genius. One of the naive assumptions in sports, whether expressed in the media or in the casual chatter of fans, is that players on any team have a monolithic, easily summarized opinion of their coach. Particularly in the late 1960s, it was difficult to be a beloved winning college coach in football at the same time. Some of the best molders of young men and best loved coaches were aloof and did heavily invest their emotions in their players. But that could eat them up. And when they were fired or they resigned, it could be said, just not tough enough to be a great head coach. But above it all, it was and is perilous to overgeneralize even about Frank Broyles. That said, summarizing the players' views of the Arkansas coach for the most part painted a fair picture. But with Royal at Texas, it was far more complex. The Longhorns felt a mixture of fear, respect, hatred, anger, confusion, and reference, and all of those emotions could swirl within one player. But over the years, those who stuck it out in the Royal program tended to forget the rest and remember the respect, and add to it. It's a fair exchange. They stuck with Royal, he stuck with them, moving mountains for his former players over the years. If he never said your name the entire time, you'd be very happy. 1969 guard Mike Dean says of him, you were scared to death of him, literally scared to death of him. I don't know anybody who wasn't scared to death after I realized what he was doing. He told me one time that he practiced a system he called intermittent reinforcement. You never knew if he liked you or if he didn't like you. He told me if I was down on you all the time, you quit the team. If all I did was praise you and you let up, you never knew where you stood with him. One day he would praise you, the next day he would make you feel like a piece of dirt. Because of this, we all feared him. To be honest, we really didn't like him. We certainly respected him. I love the man now, but at the time, I just knew if he said my name, it wasn't going to be good. Linebacker Scott Henderson, the junior, 1969, says of Rory, some people thought he was ruthless. Some people thought he was unfair. I always found him to be fair, tough, but fair. Tight end Randy Peschel says Royal was a psychologist and motivator, second to none. He knew what buttons to push to get you to do what you needed to do. I know my appreciation grew for him exponentially after I was done. Maybe others did, but I know I didn't realize at the time what he was doing and how he was doing it and how he was helping me and all of us as a team. Royal, meanwhile, earned his players' complicated opinion of him by overseeing us sometimes brutal regimen, the blank treatment for the scrubs in the Texas program involving extra practice work wasn't unique in college football in the 1960s, and it generated bitterness in those who felt they were being punished or run off. The Monday Turd Bowls, matching those who had played on Saturday against the freshmen, were legendary for both their sharp-edged competition, being competitive, and their implicit punishment. The upperclassmen were angry at having to play on Mondays, not Saturdays. It was the freshmen against everybody in the world, says 1969 All-American tackle Bob McKay, who went through the Turd Bowls as a freshman in 1966. The sophomores were the worst because they had just gotten out of it. They treated you like blank anyway. They just took the light and trying to kick your blank. So you had to learn pretty quick that you had to stand up for yourself. The only friends you had were the other freshmen. Now, similarly infamous for the off-season conditioning drills under veteran trainer Frank Medina, drills that some players concluded were tougher for the marginal players. Medina was somewhat of a henchman, guard Bobby Mitchell says, but he was running people off, really. Others thought Medina's workout program was an egalitarian hell. He was the one who kept us in shape. Mike Dean says, we were in incredible shape and he deserves some credit for our success. Regardless, Medina considered the workouts biblical trials, challenging the Longhorns to measure their faith. It was also recognized as a Darwinian test in a tough sport. Only the strong would survive. Maybe they would even contribute to the program. If they stuck it out but didn't play, they still would be stronger and better men for it, wouldn't they? If they didn't survive, survive. If they quit or dropped out of the program, they weren't strong enough to be missed. That's just how it was. Numbers game was cold. Texas annually brought in about 50 scholarship freshman players, the elite of the state's prospects. Even when the lack of a ceiling on the total number of scholarship players in the program had lessened the need for attrition, the numbers were unmanageable. If all the scholarship players remained in the program, if they left cussing your program, that wasn't a strategy. They hadn't been playing for anyone else in the league. If they transferred, it often was to where they could play right away. And that wasn't possible within the Southwest Conference because of the transfer rules. It's naive to assume that everyone who left did so only or even primarily because of the physical rigors. Players didn't like seeing their name on a little circular disc hanging in the seventh slot below the position name on the depth chart board. They often wanted to go somewhere they could play, or they decided to end their college football careers on the spot. But if they stayed with Royal and the Longhorns, they knew they were subject to exhausting physical workouts and costed reviews. When Coach Royal came off his tower at practice, you hoped to hell he turned right, because that meant the defense screwed up and it wasn't us. McKay says, the thing is, it was a different time. We didn't ask questions. When we were told to do something, hell, there were 300 people on the field at any one time. If you didn't like the way things were going, they didn't give a blink. You were more than welcome to leave. It wasn't, well, we think this is going to work? Do we really want to do this? It wasn't up for discussion. As the head of that Texas program, Royal was universally respected, but the definition included the understanding that he was the supreme power. When the Longhorns gathered on Sunday to watch game film as a full team, there was plenty of collegial chatter in the room as players filed in, sat down, and waited. Then as Roy walked in from the back, the silence followed him up the aisle like a wave, until those in the first few rows sensed it shut up even before the coach passed them. And the odds were pretty strong that none of the players in the room would have a personal conversation with Roy anytime soon. In Fayetteville, Frank Roy seemed uncomfortable with closeness. In Austin, Darryl Roy seemed disdainful of it. Everyone understood that, including Bob McKay and defensive tackle Leo Brooks, both stars. A guy from a newspaper out in West Texas, where we were from, talked to us, and he couldn't understand that we just didn't walk in and talk with Coach Roy. McKay says that would be like me going to play with rattlesnakes. I'm smart enough to know that you don't do that. Coach Roy was always nice, but he was Coach Roy. I didn't stop in to shoot the blank. It wasn't something you did for fun. I told that kid I was in his office 5 times in my college career, and 4 of them weren't worth a blank. The 5th, McKay said, was late in the 1969 season when Roy called him in and told him he had been named an All-American, but that he needed to keep it quiet until the official announcement. But the Thanksgiving game at Texas A&M, Roy saw McKay's parents after the game and congratulated them. They asked why. Later, Roy approached McKay. You didn't tell him? No, sir. You told me not to tell anybody, so I didn't tell anybody. Roy's authority was unquestioned, yet by Texas standards, Roy's program struggled mildly from 1965 to 1967. And Texas 6-4 records were abominable, and that was their record in each of the 3 regular seasons. The Longhorns beat Mississippi after the 66 season in the Blue Bonnet Bowl to finish 7-4, but Roy avoided any thought of going to a bowl game after the 67 season. The Longhorns didn't deserve to go anywhere, he declared. It really didn't matter all that much with the Texas boosters. The men with the money and influence were applying heat because Roy was plenty hot himself. He was going to do something about it, and ordering that the 1968 spring training and 1968 fall practices be living blank. He didn't even try to pretend it was something other than the test. The candy blank, those who couldn't take it, those who didn't want it bad enough, were going to be gone one way or another. We were coming off 3 6-4s, Roy says of 1968 practices. You bet it was hard. You always do that. You always had it stern enough to find out who wanted to and who didn't. Who wanted to late. Who wanted to when you were behind. Who wanted to when they were tired. Who wanted to when it would be easier to take a lazy step or two. You had to push them hard enough to find that out. By 1968, Roy was ahead of his time in one area, the staining water deprivation, which was a part of the testing mechanism for so long from coast to coast. In 1962, reserve sophomore guard Reggie Grob suffered heat stroke during fall practice, went into a coma, and died 4 days before the season opener in Austin against the Oregon Ducks. Roy's angst was palpable. and he openly talked and agonized about whether he and his staff should have been able to prevent Grub's death. Coach Roy had gone through a tough time when that kid had died. Guards Randy Stout says, "We always had water all the time." In '68, they weren't thirsty, but they were so sure they often couldn't even make the walk from the stands to the football dorm, or vice versa. On the way to the second practice of the day in the fall, without stopping or lying down to rest, Roy's pride and his job were on the line. And if he was going to go down, he was going to go down the toughest. I wasn't surprised that it was that tough, Scott Henderson says of the next CX spring ball. I was surprised that so many guys quit and left, but Roy made it very clear it was going to be whoever wants to play. Henderson had undergone knee surgery after his freshman season, so he was watching the practices, not participating. The rehabilitation from his surgery to repair a torn anterior cruciate ligament was difficult, but Henderson wasn't sure it was any worse than what he witnessed on the field. Bob McKay was more certain. He had to drop out of spring ball to have rotator cuff surgery. I swore to God, I was the happiest man in the world when I got to the hospital. Got to go to the hospital. Bill Zapalak, then a sophomore to be tight end, who turned into a star linebacker for the '69 team, says those spring drills were hellacious, and they weeded out some of the upperclassmen. I don't know if it was intentional, but a lot of people quit. The survivors added up. About 30 players quit, and about 30 more were hurt in spring ball. They weren't just the scrubs either. Tommy Orr was expected to challenge the star at tackle, gone. Jack Freeman, the guy in the dorm room next to McKay, had played for Odessa Permian High School where they were as tough as they come, gone. McKay managed to say goodbye, but star tight end Darryl Comer, McKay's roommate, was so drained he couldn't even get up. Freeman understood. Comer himself quit during spring drills, but came back after their day. Everyone understood that the staff wouldn't have let him come back. He paid for his impudence with extra sprints if he had been a third bowl regular. Survivors, such as undersized and unheralded guard Mike Dean, saw themselves move up the depth chart without doing all that much except making it through practice and not throwing up on Royal when he came down from the tower. That was one of the most difficult times I ever had. Ted Hoy, originally the Cowboy captain and starting right halfback for the next '69 team, so the next CX spring drills. We would hit from the time we broke from calisthenics. Coach Roy was going to go the next year with the survivors. James Street, a backup quarterback in 1967 as a sophomore, also was fortunate enough to miss the '68 spring practice. He was pitching for the Longhorns baseball team under first-year head coach Cliff Gustafson. Street came over to watch the football workouts and wince. He remembers Roy saying, "The circle's getting tighter. We're losing a lot of players, but the ones staying here want to play ball." Yes, that was 1968, but it was crucial in the development of the 1969 team. Royal and the staff knew they had the Worcester bunch, featuring fullback Steve Worcester, coming into their sophomore years for the 1968 season to go with the holdover starting quarterback Bill Bradley. The Texas coaches were pondering installing an offense that suited the prospects' talents and also took advantage of the skills of the upperclassmen survivors. The fact that the Longhorns didn't come up with their new offense until after spring ball was one indication that those workouts primarily were designed as a screening process. The survivors had the guts to stick around, and they weren't always the biggest and the most talented. They had spunk, and it was most cases brains. Sometimes it seemed sane young men would have put up with the hell the Roy staff put them through, but they did. And he was going to take advantage of the thinning ranks. After that cornerstone '68 spring training, Roy told his new offensive coach, Emery Bella, come up with a scheme that takes advantage of what we're going to have left. As a high school head coach, Bella won Texas state championships at three different schools. Like after San Angelo High won the next six class quadruple A, 4AA, it's quadruple A, tied under Bella. He finally made the jump to the college game, joining Roy's staff as linebackers coach. Following the third 6-4 season, Roy reorganized his staff, making Bella the offensive backfield coach effectively the coordinator. Ballard doodled and tinkered in his office for hours, pondering splits and formations, pitch-outs and belly rides, and quarterback improvisations. He was barely a year removed from coaching high school, yet he eventually went to the office of one of college football's legends and said, "This is what we should do." Ballard suggested a four-man backfield, a variation of the full-house T formation, the full-back within arm's length of the quarterback, and halfbacks a couple of yards back on each side. The T had become a Y, and the basic triple option play would start with the quarterback riding the ball in the fullback's belly before deciding quickly whether to be more emphatically jammed in the half handoff or pull the ball out and go down the line himself. And the quarterback's second and third options would be to cut upfield himself or pitch out to the trailing halfback. The halfback who had started on the other side of the formation. The basic formation would call for a tight end on one side, the strong side, a split end on the other. It took some guts on his part to do it. But it says of Royal, we got a bunch of guys together who had completed their eligibility, who were in summer school to look at it. One time I played quarterback, another time I found one. I messed with it to see if the quarterback could do the things we were going to ask him to do. I felt if I could do it, I knew well I could teach it to an athlete. So on late July, James Street got a call in his hometown of Longview. He was told it might be a good idea to be back in Austin by August 1st, so you can be a part of his first look at a new offense. The introduction was low key. We were out there working out, Street says, and they said, let's set it up here. Let's set up here and see how this works. See what y'all think about this. With the fullback so close to quarterbacks Bill Bradley and Street found it impossible to ride the fullback long enough to survey the defensive reaction. Bradley and I kept saying we can do it, but neither of us thought it would work. You just didn't have enough time. After the coaches moved the fullback a yard farther back, the timing began to work. Street and Bradley discovered the offense wasn't complicated. All it required was an attentive, intelligent reaction on the fly and taking care of the ball. Lawrence had a terrific holdover halfback, Chris Gilbert, and putting both Steve Worcester and Ted Coy, each previously listed as fullbacks, in the backfield with Bradley, and Gilbert, was an astute deployment of resources, not just a strategic wrinkle. The split end was going to be Charles Cotton Spiewer, a speedy sophomore from Port Arthur who wasn't able to play freshman football because of shoulder surgery. He was a highly recruited running back in high school and wasn't sold on the position switch. I thought that was a demotion because University of Texas was notorious for not passing the ball. I had my head down a little bit. As it turned out, though, with the Longhorns overloaded with running back talent, it was the best thing for Spiewer and his future. Royal considered the wishbone a modernization of the split T. He rolled into coaching up the ranks. You make it a triple option instead of a double option. It's kind of unique that the side you're running the ball to, you can leave two guys totally unblocked and turn them loose. Indeed, that was revolutionary. The offense allowed the reactions of one or two unblocked defensive players to help determine the quarterback's decision. That freed an offensive lineman or two charge and block elsewhere going after linebackers or defensive backs. There were variations though. Counter the options, the fullback went one way, the quarterback did a reverse pivot and headed the other. Simple power plays, the fullback led the way through the hole for the halfback who took a handoff, or the halfback took a handoff from Street. Not the usual belly ride with Worcester. Passes usually came off play action, fixed to the fullback with Spiewer, typically the primary receiver. Ballard didn't even think the net offense was revolutionary enough to give it a pretentious name. To him, it was a variation of the Veer option offense, using three running backs instead of two. He says the original name for the package was right-left, which he thought emphasized that triple option principles can work to either side, meaning just right and left, not just right and left, but also to either the split end or tight end side. To Ballard, that was balance. Ballard and the staff taught the system to the Longhorns in the fall of 1968, and as with all experience, there were early problems that had to be worked out in games. Bradley struggled and lost the number one quarterback job at the Longhorns tied Houston 2020 in the 1968 opener, and then lost 31-22 to Texas Tech in the second game. That Texas Tech game in the loss, Worcester, Gilbert, and Coy combined for over 300 yards on the ground. Street replaced Riley in the third quarter. Street was named the starter in the middle of the next week. While Riley's handling of the demotion earned him the respect of his teammates, when the change seemed imminent, he broke the tension that practiced while running past patterns as a wide receiver, loosening the cord on his sweatpants and allowing them to drop down mid route. Within 2 weeks, he was a full-time safety, where he almost immediately was one of the best at the position in the country. What was going on here? 3 straight 4-loss seasons, an old 1-1 start, a new offense, and switch to an unproven quarterback. Was this time for panic? Time for the assistant coach to get their resumes ready or hope that Royal would get another job and take them with him if he got fired? But then the Longhorns raced through the rest of the next season undefeated, setting conference records for total offense, rushing yardage, and average points in conference games. Each week, as one of the senior leaders, Bradley would say something along the lines of, "Don't worry, boys. Rather get it done." Rat being James Street, the little quarterback who replaced him, the Longhorns beat Arkansas, finishing in the tie with the Razorbacks for the Southwest Conference title and going to the Cotton Bowl because of the head-to-head victory. Texas drilled Tennessee 36-13 that game, finishing 9-1-1. Although Chris Gilbert's career was over, the Longhorns were certain their period of mediocrity had ended. Much of the optimism was based on the success of the Wishbone and on the records of the backs returned from 1969. Right, so go to chapter 4, Slick and Company. It became a cliche James Street winner. He wasn't big, listed charitably at 5'11", stretching the truth by at least 2 inches. And at 175 pounds, he wasn't startlingly fast. Even his decision making in the Wishbone wasn't perfect, but he always seemed to make it work. If not on one particular play, then eventually as a passer, he could look like the star baseball pitcher he was in the spring, throwing the fastball through traffic. He also occasionally could look like a Hungarian place kicker screwing around on the side of the field, but there was just something about the man his teammates called not just Rat, but Slick. His shiny black hair and long sideburns were reminiscent of an Elvis Presley impersonator. When we got talking, he was a high-energy filibuster, a boulder rolling downhill Niagara Falls, Jim Brown on the sweep, unstoppable. With so much emphasis placed on his winning qualities, some could mistakenly infer that that was a way of downplaying his shortcomings as an athlete. On the contrary, he was a terrific all-around athlete, undersized dynamo without a powerful arm. He wasn't the prototypical quarterback. It was a huge upset that he beat out Bradley, one of the most highly touted recruits in 1960s college football. He did because the new offense worked so much better with the chatterbox calling and then running the plays. That's how it was with Street. You measured him not only by what he did himself, but by how others react to his presence. He had been scrambling all his life, growing up on what passed for the wrong side of the tracks in Longview, Texas, about 50 miles from Shreveport, Louisiana. James' father, Grover, had health problems and was a paranoid schizophrenic, convinced someone was lurking behind the next tree or to ruin his life. He was pretty smart, and he would come up with all these plans about how people were trying to get him. James said Grover zealously coached his 2 boys, Sue and James, building a little backstop in the backyard with a cutout of the strike zone and telling them they must hit each corner of the rectangle. I'm going to skip around a little bit. When James was a senior at Longview, Terry Don was an Arkansas freshman. With the Phillips boys gone, the Longview Lobos didn't have much talent around to hold over quarterback. As the senior season began, the Scrambling Street was regarded as one of the top quarterbacks in East Texas, but a marginal college prospect. Lloyd and Terry Don tried to convince the Arkansas coaching staff to recruit him, but even Street still was thinking baseball first. He was surprised when Southwest Conference football coaches started contacting him during the Lobos 5-5 season. He weighed 155 pounds. He was going to play baseball. When the Texas A&M coach showed up at Longview High and asked him if he would play football for the Aggie, Street responded, "No, I don't want to cut my hair off." Oklahoma State and Texas Tech also contacted him. He started to figure out that college was a bona fide alternative to sign a pro baseball contract right out of high school. Texas at the Longhorns, he asked him to make a visit to Austin. It wasn't that Street lacked confidence, he just didn't picture himself as a football player. Street also was considering another school, the University of Arkansas. The Phillips's lobbying efforts finally worked. The Razorback staff contacted Street, and then Frank Broyles called. It wasn't an all-out blitz. It might have been a case of Broyles getting Lloyd Phillips, one of the top players in the country, off his back. But Broyles asked James to add the Razorbacks to his list of possibilities. "You have some friends here, James," Broyles said, "and we wish you consider becoming a Razorback." The thought was comforting. He could rejoin the big Phillips boys, his pals in Fayetteville. James sat down for a chat with his surrogate father, Mr. Jackson, at the cafe. Street said he was leaning toward going to Arkansas, at least making an official visit there. What about baseball? Jackson asked. Isn't baseball what you want to do? Texas's baseball program, then still under a longtime coach Bill Falk, was much higher profile than the one at Arkansas. Jackson's daughter was a University of Arkansas student, but he told Street that Texas sounded like a better fit for a dual sport athlete. Street went to Austin for his official tour and visited with Darrell Royal. Texas coach challenged him, bringing him up the name of the all everything quarterback the longest had landed the year before, Bill Bradley. I guess a lot of schools are throwing Bradley up to you, Roy said. Yes, sir. Roy said slowly, if you start running away from the competition now, you never know if you could have played with the best or competed against the best. You never know. It was as if Royal was staring at Street to keep pitching as the blood ran down his face. Street never took that recruiting visit to Arkansas. By the time he was a senior at Texas, he was the entrenched starter, the established master of the triple option, and co-captain, along with halfback Ted Coy and linebacker Glenn Housel. He also was the baseball program's ace pitcher, and on baseball trips, he roomed with another dual sport player, outfielder tight end Randy Petchel. He just did not take defeat in anything. He wouldn't accept it and wouldn't let anybody around accept it. When 1969 preseason practice began, Street had just returned from a summer of playing semi-pro baseball in Colorado, the Boulder Collegians, a team of college all-stars. The Longhorns' press day came after a few days of daily double practices. Street was wearing shorts and a bandage on his leg when he went through a mass interview with reporters. What's that bandage for? Does it hurt? A writer asked. Street couldn't help himself. Mouth got going. He couldn't stop it. Well, as you guys know, I was in Colorado for the summer playing baseball, and I worked as a substitute mail carrier on the side. Just the other day, a dog bit me, and now they're checking it for rabies, and they're a little worried that I may go mad. The writer was scribbling. As he continued, Street was starting to let saliva drip from his mouth. He was on the verge of laughing too. Just kidding, fellas. We saw Depp at scraping the line of scrimmage as he ran a triple option. Street often was kicked by his lineman. That's why he often had a bandage on his leg. Roy wasn't in the room and he was livid. Nobody likes a smart blank, Roy snapped after the session. Street resolved to follow the coach's guidelines for dealing with the press. Be polite, be classy, compliment your opponents, don't say anything controversial, then compliment your opponents again to make sure everybody got the point. But to James Street, life was a revival medium, filibuster soapbox. I'll tell you what, I can't stress enough that James Street was such a callous, not only with his play, but with it being in the huddle. James was a guy you couldn't never get to shut up. He was a great guy, and there was just something about James Street you didn't see until you put him on a football field. He was just a winner, plain simple. The guy obviously had talent, but he threw a pass like a wounded duck. He threw it kind of like I would. That was fine because we didn't have to throw it often. Once the wishbone got rolling, in fact, the Longhorns hammered everyone. The Street usually starting the play by extending the ball to Worcester's belly, with the Texas offensive linemen making the decisions easier because they were blowing away the defensive front. Texas looking unstoppable. Some other stuff that's in this book. McCoy was the senior co-captain in 1969. He looked like a captain, standing there with his hands on his hips, with his jostled dark hair and Hollywood looks. He was very serious and earnest, and the guys just couldn't get him to lighten up. And after a while, they gave up trying. None of this boozing for him. And when the women were throwing themselves at the players to see at the games, nope, that wasn't for Ted. Not the Boy Scout. Well, not the Boy Scout. If he went to the parties, he drank soft drinks, maybe showed temples and didn't blush. Didn't lord that over anyone either. There was no air of superiority. He was a tough bastard on the field, though. His name was famous in Texas even before he arrived. Ernie McCoy, Sr., was a Longhorn star from 1930 to 1932 before going into professional baseball, playing 5 seasons as an outfielder in the major leagues with Brooklyn, St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia. Longhorns beat SMU 45-14 to go 4-0. Corey's column was about James Street, co-wrote of the Longhorns Huddle. Street is a master at 30-second psychology. To understand the Texas Huddle, one must know the Texas quarterback. Street is controlled Bellum. He's an excitable, emotional personality who completely thrives on competition. Street has never been defeated in his life, outscored perhaps, but never defeated. He's the type of fellow you will want on your side if you were fighting the guys down the block. It's not that he's physically imposing, but that he never quits. He's gutty, nervy, and explosive, a real fireball of seething energy. Rosen. Jim Rosen. He told Roy he had narrowed his choice to Texas and Colorado, and Rosen signed a Big 8 conference letter of intent with the Buffaloes. And Jim Rosen. That only meant Rosen couldn't go to another Big 8 school. Texas still was in the running. Roy knew this kid had good grades and test scores, but hey, he'd studied geography. Jim, he told Rosen, you're trying to get out of snow and ice, and you can't make up your mind between Colorado and Austin. Son, have you looked at the map? If you draw a line across, we hit North Florida. Have you checked the weather in Colorado? Roy went out visiting Rosen to watch him sign a national letter of intent. The Longhorns coach at a news conference with the high school kid outside Texas. Snow falls more often in Austin. At Texas, Rosen set a freshman rushing record in 68 games, 685 yards in only 5 games. The Longhorns boosters already were talking him up as a worthy successor to the three-year star Chris Gilbert. In the 69 spring interest squad game, Rosen ran for 156 yards, but in part because he missed most of the spring practice with a pulled muscle. Rosen still was listed as the number 2 left halfback behind Billy Dell as the 1969 fall practice opened. When the season started, he was number 1. Rosen was only a sophomore, but despite his elevation to starting halfback, his famous stoicism didn't abate at all. Many of his teammates decided he was the inspiration for the phrase, he wouldn't say blank if he had a mouthful. His major was communications. I'm just going to stop right here. Tomorrow I'll be in chapter 5 and 6. Chapter 5 will be about the colonel, the tailback, the Rhodes Scholar, and the disillusioned vet. And chapter 6 will be Texan Razorbacks. That's it. I'm done for the night. Hope you enjoyed tonight's live feed, whoever been on tonight. Appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:45 to do another live feed at 7:45. Bible study time. I'll be in chapter 76, 77, 78 in Psalms. I read some Psalms 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. So 77, 76, 78. I'll be in that tomorrow. All right, so that's it for the night. And some of the excerpts from chapters 3 and 4 of this book, Horns, Hogs, and Nixon. Texas versus Arkansas, and Dixie's Last Stand. I read excerpts from that book. I'll be in chapter 5 and 6. I was in chapter 4 and chapter 3. I read about that. Coach Royal and Slick and Company read those 2 chapters. So I'll be in chapter 5 and 6 tomorrow. So until then, talk to you tomorrow.